I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chambers, roll call, please.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Here.
Ms. Smoyer?
Here.
Mr. West?
Here.
Ms. Pritchard?
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting April 16th and the special work session on April 30th?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 16th and the April 30th meetings.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Mrs. Parkhurst, any additions, corrections? Otherwise, go ahead, Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Are there any additions, removals, modifications to the agenda? And if not, I would like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst. Mr. West. So, Mr. Chambers, roll call, please.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, Superintendent Communication.
It is a pleasure to have so many guests here this evening, especially our retirees and their loved ones. We're here to celebrate many years of service to Medina City Schools. We started last year. We used to recognize our retirees at the board meetings throughout the course of the school year. And we decided to change that practice last year because we felt like our retirees deserved a better send-off than recognizing them throughout the year. And we are already seeing in the second year the growth of attendance of our retirees at this event, which I think is special because we want this to be a special opportunity not only to recognize you, but to recognize the dedication that you've given back to Medina City Schools, to our students, and to our community. I would first like to invite Medina High School up to the front to recognize their retirees. We have two retirees here this evening from the high school, Phil Brewer and Mary Herman. I do want to point out that we have many more retirees than we're physically recognizing here tonight, and they're scrolling on the screen. Tonight, though, we're actually going to have a few words for the people that are here in person.
Thank you. So we have most of our administrative team. Not everyone could be here, but we have, just so everyone knows who's who, we have Brittany Hardery, one of our associate principals, Katie Porter, one of our associate principals, and Mitch Sharvett, one of our associate principals. So we are going to start with Phil Brewer. We're going to do a little popcorn reading here for everybody.
I think Phil needs to come on down.
Do you want to stand on the stage, Phil? So Phil Brewer is someone who we can all rely on. Phil is someone who is always willing to have a conversation and lend a listening ear. He is caring, honest, kind, and patient. Phil will go out of his way to compliment someone, check on his colleagues, and help bring unity to any group that he is a part of.
Phil's service to MHS is one that has not only positively impacted the staff, but also the students. When asked about Mr. Brewer, students shared that he makes class fun. He is the, quote, nicest teacher I've ever had, and has always remained calm and was always there for his students.
It's often that you will see Phil at athletic events supporting students throughout the year. He takes the time to invest in his students and understands that their high school experience goes far beyond the classroom. Phil is a staple at Medina events, and we hope to continue to see him cheering on the Bees.
Phil also had an impact on Medina City Schools through his coaching. Our athletic department shares that Phil has had an important and lasting impact on a large number of student athletes during his tenure as a teacher and coach at Medina High School. He's helped coach many sports, but most recently has been an assistant coach, the girls' track and field team and boys' cross-country team. He is and always will be an integral part of our running programs here at Medina, and he will be greatly missed. Thank you for your service to Medina High School and our community, Mr. Brewer.
Is that it? Am I supposed to say something, or?
No, I mean, you can if you want, but.
No, it truly has been an honor and privilege to be here at Medina. I've walked these halls now, I figure, for about 45 years as a student and then as a coach and teacher. And we just have the most incredible people here. Our students are amazing. It's a credit to a lot of you in here who are parents, and I'm going to miss it a lot. It has been a great joy of my life to do this. Thank you.
So our next retiree that we would like to recognize is Mary Herman. Will you come down, please? Mary Herman is an asset to Medina High School. She is kind, compassionate, encouraging, and genuine. You can't walk into the green admin office without happily being greeted by Mary. She has the ability to turn anyone's day around and make it better. Mary carries this positive and caring attitude with not just staff, but students as well.
Mary truly takes care of any student who visits the office. She greets them with positivity and kindness. She goes out of her way to make students and staff feel valued and treats everyone like family. From pancake day to her desserts, Mary keeps everyone happy and well fed.
When asked about Mary, a student shared that she is the one person I look forward to seeing every day at school. Whenever I need a hug or to rant to someone, she is there to listen and to make me feel better.
Mary's a true role model for anyone who walks the halls of MHS, and we're lucky to call her our own. Although Mary is retiring, we all know that her impact will continue to be felt throughout Medina City Schools. We wish her the best of luck as she enters retirement and look forward to hearing about all of her stories as she enjoys some quieter days in the future. Thank you, Mary, for all you've done to make MHS a better place. And I know for me personally, I'm going to miss you like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Medina City Schools. I can truly say all of my days at Medina City Schools I've totally loved. And I do believe, and I've told the kids as they serve as office aides in our office, do not go after that job that's going to give you a bunch of money. Go after that job that you love going to every single day, because you will never be sorry then. So thank you so much. I've loved my time.
Next, I'd like to invite Claggett Middle School down to recognize Jeff Knox.
Good evening. It is my privilege to recognize Jeff Knox, who is a longtime veteran staff member of Claggett Middle School. It is my thrill to recognize him. He is currently a 6th grade English language arts teacher at Claggett. But 34 years ago, when Jeff was hired in 1990 at Claggett Middle School, when it was actually Medina Junior High, Jeff was I believe, the 7-8 ELA teacher when you were hired. Reading teacher when he was hired. It's pretty fortunate that Mr. Knox has been able to remain at what was then Medina Junior High to Claggett Middle School for his entire career. And in that time, because Jeff, I went back through some of your files and noticed that you taught, correct me if I'm wrong, the 7-8 reading teacher, ELA, science, math, and social studies. So all subjects covered, and I believe all grade levels as well, as you taught all grade levels at that building. And during that time at Claggett, Jeff was also the track and cross-country coach. He did cross-country for 29 years and track for 28 years at Claggett Middle School. And that was definitely, you can see that was definitely a passion for Jeff. His passion was for coaching and coaching our young student athletes to great success. And during his time as the cross-country and track coach, our students had numerous successes and benefited from Jeff's coaching. And I will say from the parent side of students that have gone through Claggett and have a current student there who has done track with Mr. Knox, extremely organized. And I told Jeff this, that we as parents appreciate his organized emails. We knew exactly where the kids needed to be. We knew what was going to happen and the time frame for those emails. And I know moving forward that is going to be some tough shoes to fill. So Jeff's ability to organize information and effectively communicate that out to parents will definitely be missed, but was thoroughly a great success while he was at Claggett. So as Jeff's career at Claggett and education comes to a close, I couldn't think of a better way than to end with a poem that a current student wrote about Mr. Knox this year. And I don't know if you were aware, but someone actually snapped a photo and sent it to me of the poem that was written by the student that is currently in Mr. Knox's class. The poem is entitled Mr. Knox's Class. During 6th period, I'm all excited. You may ask why. Just come, you're invited. We'd like to keep the bad language limited to their freedom, but that doesn't mean we don't call each other oxymorons and idioms. In Mr. Knox's class, you will find books and other things, all with occasional coffee beans. The school year that is going is sadly the last year Mr. Knox will be showing. He is retiring and moving on, but his contribution to the school will never be gone. And I couldn't agree more. Jeff, thank you for your 34 years at Claggett Middle School. We truly appreciate it.
I was told I didn't have to do a speech, but I was actually here in 1990 for when I got board approved, so I thought it was only fitting to come back when I was, leaving the schools. But as Brian said, the coaching, cross country and track was one of the highlights, especially toward the end of my career, I would say. And working with all the high school, Phil Brewer and all the high school coaches was always amazing. And then 34 years in the same building, I don't know how I did that, but I enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm really thankful to be part of that Claggett family. So, and I want to thank you guys for everything you've done for our schools and the parents and fellow teachers. So thank you.
Next, we have Canavan recognizing Barbara Reese.
All right, tonight I have the honor of recognizing and celebrating Barb Reese. So Barb Reese's time with Medina City Schools has spanned over the past 17 years. During her time at Medina, Barb has served our students in a variety of ways, both seen and unseen. She began her career in the district within the transportation department, where she was a bus driver for 13 years. During part of this time, Barb also worked within food services, supporting students as a cafeteria server. The past 3 years, Barb has worked as a custodian, taking great care of Canavan in the evening hours. Barb never fails to go out of her way to greet me with a warm smile at the end of a crazy day. She consistently shows up for Canavan staff and students with the kindest heart. Despite having a challenging job, Barb does not let it show. Even as a bus driver, Barb had students with some of the most unique needs. These routes were often trying, but Barb never faltered in her care of the students, often asking about them years later as they progressed on to middle school and even high school. Barb's heart will be greatly missed at Canavan as she enters into retirement. However, she is more deserving of this well-earned time off. And I promised her she did not have to say anything, so we're going to go back to our seats now.
Yeah, not a problem. I think Phil set a tone, which doesn't surprise me. Next up, we have Garfield Elementary, recognizing Barb White.
Here she comes. All right. This is Barb White. She works at Garfield. She's an important part of our team. Barb's journey in education is quite extensive and diverse, spanning over 4 decades, starting with her bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Akron. Fresh out of college, Barb began her teaching career at St. Matthew's Elementary in Akron for the Diocese of Cleveland, where she taught 6th grade from 1980 to 1985. She left this position in order to focus on her young family. As a young mother in Medina, the ability to balance family life and to work with students drew her to paraprofessional positions at Root Middle School and at Medina High School from 1997 to 2000. Her teaching journey with Medina City Schools began in August 2001 when she held various roles over the years. Initially, she served as a PE teacher and reading intervention teacher at Garfield and St. Francis until June 2011. Subsequently, she transitioned to various buildings within the district, including Fenn, St. Francis, Canavan, Garfield, and most recently this year at Blake. But she came back to Garfield. Barb earned a master's degree in reading from Baldwin-Wallace College in August 2008. This new degree helped her to focus on her role as a district reading intervention teacher from August 2011 until current times. Her tenure in education not only showcases her extreme adaptability and commitment, but also her passion for helping students succeed in reading and beyond. As Barb White embarks on her well-deserved retirement, her impact on the lives of students and colleagues alike will surely be remembered. Her kind heart and infinite positivity will be her lasting legacy. That's you, Barb. All yours, Barb.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, all of you. And thank you to all the board members who do so much for every one of us. And I have to say thank you to my family. They were with me every step of the way. Thank you very much. Good night.
And if Heritage Elementary can come to the podium to recognize Lynn Campbell and Michelle Moyler. I would like to also thank Michelle for her years of service as our association assistant president, where I've had the opportunity to work with her in a leadership role with our staff across the district.
I'll start with Lynn. Do you guys want to come up together? Yes. I knew they did. As they come up, I want to tell you these are the last 2 staff members at Heritage that were hired by West Florian. So such an amazing person and 2 amazing people to go with that too. So anyone who knows music and Heritage knows Lynn Campbell. So Lynn has been a music teacher at Heritage for 34 years. So many of our students who sing on this stage in the PAC have had Lynn Campbell that have attended Heritage. And so music at Heritage wouldn't be what it is without Lynn. Her performances make music fun and engaging, and the talent and creativity takes performing to another level. Anyone who's been any part of any performance at Heritage knows that. So Lynn's taught here for 34 years, all at Heritage, all in music. To me, that's a huge accomplishment. Anyone in education to be at the same place all those years, and the love for Heritage. 3 years before that was in parochial teaching, so 37 years in education. She, before being hired in Medina, as I said, she worked in parochial teaching, but I think the countless hours spent in making the music program what it was at Heritage is what we'll remember you for so much, Lynn, and just your passion for teaching. So thank you for all you've done for Heritage's music program. Yes, do you want? No? Okay. She was gonna sing, but you don't want me to sing. I did not have Lynn as a teacher, so there will be no singing for me. Michelle, same amazing thing. Lifelong resident of Medina, Medina High School graduate, so just like Phil, has been here a long time, walking these exact halls too, parts of them. Hired by West Florian, as I shared. You've taught 6th grade, then moved to 4th and 5th grade for 20 years, where you also taught a 4th and 5th grade split classroom. In the 14-15 school year, switched and taught 2nd grade, where you've been for the last 10 years. So they got smaller for you, hopefully more manageable. We've been so lucky to have you. You also, not that anyone's looking to find where you live, but just a few minutes away from where you teach, which makes for such a community experience, and I think that's what's important to Michelle as well. Her own children went to school here too, and went to Heritage, more importantly, where she taught, which is an incredible thing too. The biggest pieces about Michelle too are what she does outside of the school day too. Safety patrol, unit leader, teacher liaison, elementary math, CDC, and as Aaron said, vice president of MCTA in addition to all that. The exciting part is Michelle's going to be expecting her first grandchild this summer, so that's what she'll be spending her time doing. So I want to thank both of you, 66 years together in education. So thank you for changing the lives of students together. Do you want to talk to me? Okay, thank you. Thank you both so much.
I think Lynn had the entire Heritage community dancing in the gym during the Heritage Art Show. Next, I'd like to invite Northrop Elementary forward to recognize Elaine Klafczynski as well as Steve Reed.
Well, tonight I have the privilege to honor 2 retirees, and while they are currently at Northrop, they have both served in other buildings and departments in their time here at Medina City Schools. We'll start with Mr. Steve Reed. When you think about elementary encore, it's no joke, it's not for the faint of heart. You see all of the students in the school all in 1 week, and we are incredibly lucky here because at Northrop we have a wonderful encore team. But when you ask the students at Northrop, what is your favorite encore? 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear about gym class and Mr. Reed. That's not because they are naturally athletic students or even necessarily love all the things that happen in gym, but it's because of everything that Steve does to create an incredible environment in gym class for our students. These are students who might normally struggle academically, but when they enter the gym, they find a home and they find strengths because Steve brings out the best in everybody. Steve is welcome and appreciating everybody he's got a great sense of humor. He's so easy to work with. I remember when I was a teacher at Northrop, I was partner, and when I became the principal at Northrop, I soon became boss. But the real boss at Northrop is Steve, because every single day he braves the parent pickup line, and if you've ever seen the Northrop parent pickup line, that is also not for the faint of heart. So he does an incredible job with that. We are going to miss his team player attitude, everything first for the kids, and that's what matters most. We're going to miss that, but we wish him the best in his retirement as he enjoys golf, bowling, time with his family. Congratulations, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Medina City Schools. I've been very fortunate to work here. I'll never forget the first time I got hired. We used to be down at the Medina Country Club, and Charlie Irish was the superintendent. And the first thing he ever said, I think we had like 30 or 40 new hirees back in the day, and he goes, "There's a lot of people wishing that they were you today." And how true was that? You know, yeah, a lot of people wish they had my job, and I'm very fortunate to work with such great staff members and great administrators. I had principals that are so supportive: Kim, Amanda, Joe, Steve. I've been very lucky. It's been a great place to work, and just appreciate everything you've done for us, and see you later.
And now on to Elaine Klafczynski. So Elaine has been at Northrop with us for a few years, and prior to that, she was over at transportation. As you can imagine, those are two very different settings, and you need two very different skill sets for those. Elaine has transitioned from both roles beautifully, and you would never know it. She has made the Northrop office a welcoming place for staff, for students, for families. She takes the time to get to know everybody. She greets everybody with a smile, and even in the toughest conversations, she makes people leave that conversation feeling at peace and feeling a sense like they were heard. And that's not easy to do when you're taking all those phone calls and seeing all those families. One thing that you might not know about Elaine that I am certainly going to miss is that Elaine knows shorthand, like the for real shorthand. So she and I took a little bit of time because she would leave these notes for me, or we would be talking and I saw doodles. I didn't see any letters or words. So she and I had to kind of get to know each other, but it's been so wonderful. She's going to enjoy retirement. She has 6 beautiful grandchildren. She has amazing hobbies, which include working outside and pottery. We are going to miss her very much and everything that she brings to the Northrop office, but we wish you nothing but the best in retirement. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, everyone. It took me, I think, this whole year to decide, yes, I'm going to retire because I love where I'm at. I love Northrop. I really love Medina City Schools. I didn't grow up here. I'm a neighbor at Highland, my kids, but it took me the whole year to decide, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to miss the kids. I'm going to miss who I work with. My friend Amy is a secretary with me, and we worked so well together. It's been great. So I'm doing it.
And I'd like to invite Wade forward to recognize Elena Hoffman and Elaine Rankin.
Well, good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome Elena and Elaine, 2 very difficult retirements here at Waite, to lose both phenomenal staff members, and actually Mrs. Rankin here left earlier in the year, back in October, right?
Yeah, September.
September. So she's been transitioned for a while. She can share some of the fun she's had in her retirement already. But I will say that students have already commented how much they miss you, so it makes a big difference. So I'll start with Mrs. Hoffman. Elena has been a devoted staff member for the past 23 years, with over 14 years as the music teacher at Waite Elementary. Through various performances, including the annual Community Pancake Breakfast, Medina City Schools Hall of Fame, she has enriched her students' educational experiences both inside and outside of the classroom. And she's done a lot to bring performance-based instruction to Waite in the form of Steel Pan, Glee Club. She's very passionate about students having opportunities to perform. Elena's dedication to instilling a love for music in her students has left an indelible mark. We are profoundly thankful for her service to the district and the countless students who have realized the benefits of her passion and commitment. We wish you all the best as you move on to your next adventure, Elena. Thank you. And that was the formal part, but I just want to mention that Elena and I, from day one, when you walked in my office and said, "Hi, I'm the music teacher," we connected because of her passion, her energy. She brings such a presence to the building, and she just has an enthusiasm and a love of music that really resonates with her students. She also, this is something that not everyone knows, but she went into music education later in life, and she pursued a bachelor's degree in music education and worked and went to school, and it is not an easy major, and that is inspiring to me. I started in music education, so we share that connection as well. So I have a lot of respect for how much work that takes, and I tell our students, Mrs. Hoffman is an example of when you put your mind to something and you want to do it, it just takes a lot of work, but you can do it, and we appreciate that example. So thank you very much. And Mrs. Rankin, who I think embodies a calmness that every library needs. She has a way with students to just bring them to a very comfortable, calm level. She's been with Wait for the past 25 years, and she's been a very dedicated instructional paraprofessional. Since 2009, she has been an integral part of the Wait Elementary Media Center, working tirelessly to ensure its smooth operation, and that is not easy on many days. Elaine was a master of the annual book fairs and consistently stayed acquainted with the latest technology, which again, challenging, but you did a great job with that and maintaining all of those Chromebooks every day. Yes. That's a big job. Her passion for helping students achieve their best was evident in her daily work. We are deeply grateful for her many contributions to the students and staff of Wait. We wish her all the best as she enjoys her well-deserved retirement. So congratulations both to Mrs. Hoffman and Mrs. Rankin.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Medina City Schools for supporting that journey I made 13 years ago as getting my bachelor's and master's in music. And you know, when you find your passion, I didn't work a day. Thank you.
I was just thinking as Elena said that, we talked to our staff about showing your passion in what you do and get up there in front of your students and be your passion, show your passion. And we have our kids do passion projects in the classrooms. And Elena, really, I mean, it's perfect that you ended like that because you are an example like that. I knew if I was going to open your classroom door, I was going to be in the middle of a lesson. And the kids were really active in learning and having an outstanding time. So thank you to all of our graduates for your service to our district, and for educators, it really is sort of a graduation, because when you serve a career in education, you never really leave school, and now you're retiring, and you're taking that next step outside of the schools. So we are all proud of you and your work to the district. This group, to me personally, is even more special. Obviously, we've had a challenging year with levies, and I think it's important that our board knows and our community knows that we had a number of retirees this year that maybe we're going to do another year or even two, and made the decision to retire this year so that younger teachers or younger employees weren't in a position where they might be losing their job or in a RIF position. And that's really honorable. So I thank all of you, and I wish you well as you move on, not really move on, you just step aside from Medina City Schools. So thank you. And yes, retirees, you are welcome to stay with us tonight, but I understand. It is about dinner time. Next item that I have up is just a quick recap on graduation. I want to thank our maintenance department, our high school administration, counselors, teachers, technology department, our broadcast, Medina TV people. I know there's lots of people in that list that make sure that our graduation ceremony goes on and is successful. It's a pleasure that we're able to do that right here on our own turf. We've been very fortunate with the weather. I think we've sweated the forecast the last 2 years leading up to the day. And for the second year in a row, the clouds seemed to part and the sun came out as our graduates came out onto the field. But we had a beautiful graduation ceremony this year. As usual, I was shown up by our student speakers, as I expect each year. Proud of all of our students. I anticipate that in June, I will be presenting all of our graduates to our Board of Education for final approval by the Board of Education. Next is pay to participate fees and options. This has been a topic of discussion, as we all know, for the past couple months. At our last meeting, I had told the board that we would have further exploration into potential options into pay to participate fees. I want to thank Dr. Kwolek as well as our athletic department, Todd and Mason, our athletic directors, for putting time and effort into looking at various options for different directions for pay to participate fees moving forward. I also would like to offer the opportunity for conversation in regards to pay to participate fees in the future in the district tonight, if the board so wishes. I do think, following the presentation, that we administratively would like to make some adjustments to how we're doing pay to participate. Whether it's making an adjustment to fees or just the way we handle the whole program of pay to participate fees. However, it would be my recommendation that we wait until after the levy in order to make those potential changes and adjustments, and even have them as part of the reduction plan that we intend to present to the board in August or September. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kwolek now to go through the discussions that we've had internally about pay to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. So I just have a brief slideshow put together with some of the options we wanted to present to the board and then our administrative recommendation. On this slide, I have our current pay to participate rates as they stand this year. So $330 at the high school, there's a $660 individual cap and a $990 family cap. There are some sports that are different, so I wanted to make sure we outlined them here. So $210 for 9th grade sports and cheerleading, $125 at middle school, $62.50 for cheerleading, and then at middle school there's a $250 cap for students and $990 for family. So I have presented this before, but I just put this slide in case anyone pulls up this presentation from the board meeting. Currently, we have the 2022-2023 data of what our coaching contracts are, 7-8 and 9-12, and the transportation costs. So we've tried to make it very clear when we're talking pay to participate, these are the costs we're talking about. Transportation and co-curricular coaching contracts. And so those are the district costs, 7 through 12, and then that's the revenue we're bringing in to offset those costs. So when we're talking about how much the district is paying for those two things versus how much the pay to participate is bringing in, that's the differential we're talking about. Option 1 is something we've talked about in the past, and that's increasing pay to participate. We've talked about $660 at the high school level without a cap. Again, as you saw those graduated ones in the past, we've just spoken generalities. So we're looking at then at 9th grade in cheerleading, something in the range of $420, $250 at middle school, $125 cheerleading. We've talked about no caps. Again, we're aware that athletic participation would decrease, but this would bring us closer to then that 50-50, where I'm going to go back for a minute. You can see here the district is putting a lot of money towards athletics at this point, so that's what we're trying to close the gap on. And as Aaron said, our recommendation would not be to do this now. It would be after we look at the levy, and if the levy were to fail, and we need to make up this difference in athletic expenditures. Another option, and some of you have brought this up, we've talked about this, is the Brecksville Broadview Heights model, where they look at expenditures for each sport. So I'm going to go a little slower on this, but I want to make sure that we understand how it's calculated. So what they do on a yearly basis, and Mason, Todd, and I, we worked with Brenda on this too, and transportation would be willing to do on a yearly basis, you take the transportation costs for each sport. So JV, freshman, varsity, you take the transportation costs, then you add the co-curricular coaching contracts, you get the total pay to participate cost for that sport, then you divide it by the number of athletes on that roster, and then you divide it by 2. And then the district pays half, and then the parents pay half. And in that way, you calculate that cost for each individual sport. You also then place a cap so that parents don't spend above a certain amount. So I'm going to go through, Todd and Mason and Brenda and I did a couple examples for 2 different sports.
And with this model, the pay to participate fees adjust every single year. So they're based off of those variables, which are changing variables from one year to the next.
Correct. So I tried to color code. I almost ran out of colors, but I didn't, because I think it's easier to look at this way. So we did girls and boys basketball for an example. So I want to make sure people understand sometimes boys basketball will ride with cheerleading. Sometimes freshmen will ride with JV. So you would divide those costs by 2, or sometimes you divide them with 3 because cheerleading will ride with varsity and JV. So in that case, you would divide by 3. So you really are looking at all the teams that are on a vehicle and dividing. So let me go through JV girls, for example. That $33, $63, $65 is the cost of transportation. That's total transportation costs for JV girls for the year. Then we're adding the coaching co-curriculars, so those are the cost of the JV girls coach, and then we come up with the total. Then we divide by the number of athletes on the roster. So the way we do that is there were a couple freshmen that were mostly rostered on JV. That's how we come up with the 10. So it's where did you play the majority of your time? What roster did you play the majority of your time on? And then you divide it by 2, and that's how you get those costs. Same thing with boys basketball. You can see the varsity ends up being a pretty large number. That's where the cap comes into play. You can, as a board, decide, you know what, $900 is a lot. We're going to put a cap on it. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Right now, Brecksville Broadview Heights has a $500 cap on a sport. We put $660. That's kind of the discussion I think Aaron wants to talk about. The cap then is for an individual, but not for a family. So if I play football and I pay the $660, then I don't pay any more for athletics. I've reached my cap. I can play 3 sports, and $660 is my max. But there is no family cap. So you can see based on that, these would be the costs then for us. Based on the cost this year, freshman boys and girls basketball would cost about $275. JV boys and girls basketball would be $420. And varsity boys and girls basketball, if we set the cap at 660, would be 660. And then anyone who played basketball, again, if that was their first sport, could do track for free, or if they did boys volleyball or a spring sport. So as Aaron shared, I think our recommendation, if we require additional funding, if the levy didn't pass, our recommendation would be this pay to play based on a per sport calculation that we would do on a yearly basis, because we feel like it's more equitable. Anybody have any questions or?
Yeah, any questions or conversations amongst the board?
I'm going to go back to the calculations so you can see them.
I got a couple. Do we know how many families there are that are involved in athletics, like multiple athletes? Do we have an idea of that?
We can figure it out, but I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
More than fine. More than fine. Can you go to the last slide? There was a question I had. Oh.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Say if the levy fails, when are we talking about instituting this pay-to-play option then?
I think that would be a board discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The board has to approve any school fees, so the board would have to approve any change to pay to participate fees.
Okay.
So that's one of the questions that I think we need to decide, is whether we want to implement changes to pay to participate fees for next school year, which means that would need to happen probably by June, so fairly quickly, or whether that's something that we would prefer to do the following year, or it could be implemented in mid-year in the winter. Those are the conversations that we would need to have, or included as part of the reduction plan that we would be presenting in the fall.
The only hard part would be with the November failure. You're in the beginnings of winter sports. It'd be hard. It'd be hard to say you're going to start with spring sports when people have already done sports. So you'd probably have to wait till the next school year.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
That's kind of where my question lied in. So yeah. There was one more. Oh shoot. I'll ask it if I think of it. Yeah.
Can you go over what you were talking about with a cap again? Or just review that, please?
Yeah, so if you look at this example, varsity sports become really expensive because the varsity does more, travels more, contracts are more expensive with varsity. So, for example, Brecksville-Broadview Heights sets a cap on an individual athlete's cost. So that's the point of the cap, is so you have a choice at the varsity level. Either you do the actual cost or you set a cap for an individual athlete. Did I answer your question, Mr. West?
Yeah, so whatever that number is, Brecksville, would you say Brecksville?
Brecksville-Broadview Heights sets it at 500.
So they set it at 500 on an individual, but the family, there is no cap on that.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that answers it.
All right, I thought of my question. Because I'm not familiar, and it's been a while since I played sports in high school. When do we currently collect the pay to participate right now? Is it at the beginning of the sport? Because I know you had mentioned, depending on where most of their time is spent, we would collect based on that. So it sounds like maybe after. I don't know if that's a change.
I don't think I understand your question. So it is charged at the beginning, but you said based on where most of their time is spent?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood when you were talking about it. Like if they're between freshman and JV.
Sorry. So what I said is we count their roster spot. I didn't want anyone to be confused. So let me go to freshman girls. There were 2 freshmen that were rostered up on JV. They played most of their season on JV. Good question. So we would move them up to JV. I think when we are calculating this, so then they would be charged the JV rate, right? Where we're rostering you is where you'd be charged.
Oh, okay. And then that would be they would pay like the freshman rate at first and then the difference between the
That's a
two
good
at
question.
the end of the season?
Yeah, we'd have to work on that, but yeah, if we're
Okay.
going to calculate them there, that's what we'd have to do.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
if you
cool,
got
cool, cool.
moved up, so to speak.
Yep, for sure.
Wouldn't that be the same case with varsity girls and the JV girls? Some JV girls go up and play quite a bit of varsity, and the same is true, they go the other way. So, I mean, that would be another concern.
So, yeah, nobody's going to count minutes or quarters of playing time. They're just going to look overall. So here's the other thing. You're doing this after the season to try to calculate numbers. Pay to participate is going to be before when you charge. So, you know, I don't know that we're going to be able to make them totally equitable. So let me slow down and say that to you. When we're calculating this, it's after the season. And we're able to say, okay, we're going to use this number and that number based on time. We're not going to go back after the season and say, hey, we're going to charge your daughter the varsity rate now because she moved up during the playoffs.
Yeah, these would be rates for the next year.
That makes sense. You're calculating this after the year is over, the rates to charge. We're going to have to make an estimated best guess of what to charge when the year starts. We're not going to go back and say to a parent, hey, your daughter moved up for the playoffs, so now we're charging you the JV rate,
So
or
this
the varsity rate.
This basically is for 23-24 is what you've calculated here?
Yes, because we
And
gave you
then-
2 examples. These are this year's current
Okay,
rates.
so then next year, we would charge this rate for those.
We're recommending we don't do this, though.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but that's what I'm like trying to get at, is that we would not do the calculations on that
Yeah,
specific year.
each year, it would be the year before.
That's what I needed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess my other question would be, you did two, I mean, basketball is not a huge sport, but, you know, smaller sports, and obviously golf is one, possibly boys volleyball. I don't think there's 3 teams. Did you look at any of the smaller sports to see how much they would be affected? Because I know, for example, golf, they usually drive themselves. I mean, not the kids, the coach.
So the mileage still counts. So there was a couple examples for basketball where they still drove. So they still get, the transportation cost is still there with the mileage for the vehicle. But we only calculated basketball, just to give the board an example.
Okay, so you just calculated mileage. What about the bus driver?
No, we just calculated mileage when they were taking the van. The bus driver's in here too.
Okay.
Let me clarify. So you had asked, what about golf when they don't take a bus? It still costs money because it costs mileage.
Right. So I guess my question is the bus driver figured in for basketball?
Yes.
Okay. And then for golf, it's just going to be mileage?
If they're not using a bus. So basketball does a mix of that. If golf is never taking a bus, their transportation cost will be the mileage cost on the
Okay.
vehicle.
Got it.
Just to clarify, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question anyways. This is for this past year. All of these numbers that you presented are for this past year.
It's for the 23-24 winter season.
Right, okay. So this is an example, but these can change based on enrollment, cost changes, et cetera. But this can give the community an idea of, hey, this is what we're looking at.
Yes.
And an idea of an approximate idea of where it would start with.
Yes, it gives the community an idea. If we were to do this next year, this is what the model would look like.
Yeah, let me clarify. If we went forward with this. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. And
I'm sorry, Mr. Sable. So real quick, so you're not looking for a board recommendation this evening?
no, we were just looking for board discussion.
Thank you. And I do think, just to throw my 2 cents in, that this is something that I think that we should, I think I've said this at the last meeting, implement as part of our plan of reductions in case the levy would fail, then we're going to see an increase in pay to participate.
Yep. I do want to mention, though, that there may still be interest to explore the per sport option because of the potential increase in equity it may offer despite what happens with the levy in November. So we'll have further discussion about that and work with the athletic department in expanding the information on that model, because I'm sensing that there's interest from the board in terms of that model. The last item I have for discussion is the proposed levy. We do have a resolution tonight on the agenda presenting the necessity to levy an additional tax. What we're looking at presenting or recommending to the board this evening is a 7.5 mil emergency levy. Emergency levies are for a fixed time period, and we need to have discussion and have an actual decision of how long we want that levy to be for, to be part of that resolution, because it has to be on the resolution. In terms of a length for the levy, it can span anywhere from 3 to 10 years. Going anything less than an 8-year mill levy, I feel would be irresponsible of the district, simply because looking at our upcoming finances and 5-year forecast, we know that within a 4 to 5 year period, with the passage of the 7.5 mil levy, we are going to need additional funds. And my concern is that if we go for a period that's 5 years or less, we are going to be on the ballot for a renewal as well as new money at the same time. So it's my recommendation that we look at least an 8 to 10 year mill or 8 to 10 year emergency levy request from the community so that those levies, the renewal and the additional money, are distanced in their requests. But we do need to have conversations so that we can add the number of years to the resolution that we're going to be presenting to the board later this evening.
Shall I go first? Sure. I don't think we should do the 10-year levy. I know you were proposing it, but just in speaking to people in the public, on, here and there, they are really wanting to have control over our finances, and the 10-year has just been a major big no. I agree, being on the finance committee, seeing the money amounts, the 5-year plan, and honestly, if we were to do, and this was suggested to me by a couple of people, to do a 5-year emergency levy, that we're just going to be coming back. It's going to be so soon. In 5 years, we do need to go a little bit further than 5 years. So my suggestion is probably an 8-year levy. That's where I stand.
I'm actually going the opposite direction of you. I'm kind of leaning towards a 10-year. I mean, as we talked about, I know a 5-year isn't even on the table, but my concern is exactly what Aaron presented, with anything less than 8 to 10 year. And the 10-year gives us, at least in my mind, enough breathing room. I've had one or two conversations with people in the community that have approached me about what's going on here. I think they feel like they still have control with the tenure. There is accountability. I understand other people that are maybe in a different mindset that, like Ms. Moore mentioned, would want control sooner. But I mean, when we're looking at an 8 to 10 years, like we're splitting hairs, honestly. Especially because like there's people recommending, oh, I'll pass it with a 5-year, but like a 5-year is unattainable. It's not what the district needs. It's not what's best for not only the district but the students and the employees of the district. So I'm on board with a 10-year more so than an 8.
Yeah, I saw an interesting article. There's a lot of voter fatigue, levy fatigue, and I understand that. But when you look at it, in my opinion, anything less than, a 10-year is, I think, where we need to be, because if we're looking at 5 or 6 years down the road, based on the 5-year forecast, we would be getting pretty close, going back to back, or maybe only a couple years apart, and not spacing it out a little bit more. For long-term financial planning and stability, I think the 10-year is, I think that's what the district needs. That'll give us the ability to plan and have some plans in place long-term, out 10 years. So I think a 10-year is, in my opinion, I think the 10-year is the way to go.
I concur with Mr. West and Mr. Nichols. We need to do the 10-year. That is what I feel is best for kids to maintain our programming and be, for our planning of our programming for our students. It's what's best. Thank you.
Well, I disagree with the last 3 speakers, and I agree with Mrs. Smoyer. We have shot for the moon in the last 2 levies and come up woefully short. And I really think, I've talked to a lot of people in the community, older people, younger people with kids in school, and they'll tell you, we will give you 5 years, and I tell, that's ridiculous. We can't do that. I think 8 is a good compromise. I guess this is how I look at it. Yeah, 10 would be great for kids, for everything, but if we don't get it, then we don't have anything for kids, and we are cutting. So I just think we need to get out of our vacuum and listen to what the community has been saying to us for 2 elections. This is too much money. We do not have that money to spend on this, on property tax. I would love to put up a 10-year, but I want to just get some money now so we can continue on. And I think an 8-year levy gives us the best chance. That's just, I just think we need to quit beating our head into the wall and listen to what the community is saying. And I don't think we've been doing that up until now. And if we vote for a 10-year, we're not going to do it. We're not listening again. We have to listen to what they're saying. And they're saying to us, enough is enough. Give us something reasonable to work with. And so that's where I'm coming from. I would just go with an 8-year. I want to get money that we can continue on, and if we have to go back to back, Well, Brunswick does it, other school districts do it, we can do it too, but we have to get out of this hole right now, and a 10-year is not going to do it.
Ms. Pritchard, thank you. I did want to just remind everyone that we did listen to the community. We had initially had a continuous levy on the ballot. We are changing it to an emergency levy with a term, as well as the turnout was 35%. So although we are listening to the community, we still have 65% of the community that aren't exercising their voice or their right to vote. So I think we need to focus on informing people about the needs of the school district, educating them about just how levies work and how our school funding works and why it's necessary to have this levy, and make sure we get people out to vote.
Well, I really think the levy committee did all that, and they're not buying it. I'm sorry, they're just not buying it. The levy committee did a great job. They were out there, we explained everything. Either people are living under a rock and they don't want to hear it, but we did all that, and now they're coming back. Yeah, I know only whatever percent voted, but we are going to be at the end of a long ballot in November in a presidential election, and it could be good or bad, but people are not, they are afraid what is going to happen in November. And that's why I'm saying we need to go shorter. I mean, we have done all those things, and it's just not working. So I think we need to go a little bit farther and say, okay, you want to make sure that we're not misspending your money 8 years. I think that's just a good compromise. If somebody wants to make a motion, we can move on.
Do we need to wait until?
Oh,
Yeah, we're not at the voting item. This is just discussion.
okay.
Dave, what's the timeline in terms of having the resolution approved?
We have to have 2 resolutions approved, plus the county auditor to certify by August 7th. So that they don't have to be, a regular board meeting and a regular board meeting, they don't have to be there. We could approve them here in July, approve them up to August, where the county could have 2 weeks to turn around what they need.
So it could be done at a special board meeting?
Yes, I can.
I honestly have received 0 feedback from community members regarding the length of an emergency levy, so I really don't have a feeling personally as superintendent of what the feeling is in the community, and that's something I'm more than willing to reach out and get more information on. I do think it's important that this issue is so important for our school district that to continue to have the conversation amongst our board and collaboration and joint support moving forward as we're making these decisions, that maybe it would be a good idea to not present the resolution tonight in order to gather more information from our community and have further discussion with the board. But that could, as Dave signified, mean the need to have a special board meeting to pass the first resolution.
Okay, Mr. Chambers, Treasurer's communication.
Yes, if it pleases the board. The district bank balance decreased $5.2 million in April to $61 million. This is $7 million below last year at this time. 5-year forecasted revenues were above last April by $982,000. All revenue sources except property tax allocation account for this increase. 5-year forecasted expenditures were above last year by $2.4 million. All expenditure sources except capital outlay and transfers and advances account for this increase. The sales tax fund balance decreased to $3.9 million. The district spent approximately $4,800 in April, with the majority of expenditures on the heritage renovation consulting. We did not spend any money on the rec center capital fund in April. As per the Department of Education and Workforce precaution plan, our 12-month personnel services reduced 1.3% between March and April. The district has received approximately $200,000 in investment income for April. The total account for the current fiscal year is approximately $229,000 above the grand total for all of last year. And the district has forecasted funds true days cash to be 153 days. This is down from March by 11 days and below last year by 52 days. The district has two supplementals on the agenda today. These supplementals are to close out funds, and the funds are going to be transferred. The district has two transfers today. These are from the funds that are going to be closed out to the principal fund and I believe to the media center fund. Let me take a look at that last one. Yeah, to the the second one's Northrop field trip to the field trip fund that they currently have. And then we have our 5-year forecast. If you look at the second page here on the forecast, you will see that the district, I saw that, Craig. You'll see that the district began the year with $39 million and we're anticipating ending the year with $34 million. For a projected loss of $5.7 million. Next page, you will look at the district. Most of our monies come from local property taxes. Gosh, this is loud here, thank you. Most of our monies come from local property taxes. You can see that 66% of it comes from our real property and our public utility property. The real property is made up of residential property and commercial agricultural. And also we have your business property in there as well. Our state funding, it's with our what is known as our Fair School Funding Plan. You can see we get around $17 million in there. Restricted aid comes from the state, and then your state share of local taxes. That's your homestead and rollback monies that the state pays for residents. The residents all receive a credit, 10% and 2.5% credit if applied. And then our other revenues are our tuition that we get in from other school districts for students they send here, also for income, our investment income. Next slide, you have where our tax rates are. I put this on last time, I'm going to put it on this time. These are our full millage taxes in the blue and our effective rate, what the taxpayers pay in the orange. You can see from 1976 takes all those levies before 1976 and combines them. So we had 30.1 mills back in 1976, gross mills. House Bill 920 came into effect, and those mills that were at 30.1 mills are now basically generating 3.14 mills. House Bill 920 goes ahead and reduces all the voted levies that are out there, except if you look at the final two. The final two are our substitute levy, which was our 2013 emergency levy, and the last one is the bond levy. Those are reduced at the county auditor level. So the substitute levy, which is 3.8 mills, it started as an emergency levy in 2013 at 5.9 mills. And the bond that you see there at 2.2 mills started in 1999 at I believe it was 3.5 mills. So those two levies on the end are reduced at the county auditor's wills, and the others are reduced at the state because of House Bill 920. So if you're looking at our levy that was passed as an emergency levy for 5 years, that was passed in 2013, it dropped down from 5.9 mils to what is currently now 3.8 mils. And if you look at our bonds dropped down from 3.5 down to the 2.2. Our next slide. This shows our revenue sources. We have state funding, we have real estate. I showed you that there's also public utility. There's other state funding itself. We do not have an income tax fund. So as you can see from 2019 to our estimate going out to 2028, our revenue sources have not increased all that much, even though valuations have increased. I guess I should have put that slide on that shows where valuations were. We had valuations, let me see if I can pull this up really quick. I know I can't give it to Craig right now, but I got to talk about this slide here. I did a slide that I showed Aaron concerning our valuations since 2014. And it basically showed where values were and where they are now. Because I started in 2014, so I wanted to show that to see what happened in the 10 years that I've been here. And yes, it's been 10 years since I was first appointed, and boy, it's been a great 10 years, let me tell you. Since 2014, the overall real property increased from a value of $1.14 billion to $1.863 billion, so a 52% increase in real property value. Now, the taxes that were collected went from 46 million to 51 million, so a 9.7% increase in taxes. So you could see we did not increase that much in taxes. However, the residential property, and I told Scott Quaid this, our residential property value increased from 889 million to 1.5 million. So our residential property value went up 57% in that time. And the residential property taxes collected during that time went up 18.1%. So what has happened is the state has put more pressure on the residents and taken it off of the businesses and commercial property. And again, this goes right back to House Bill 920. House Bill 920 makes sure that the levy that was passed in 1976, all those levies beforehand, generate the same amount. So if you're taking pressure off your business and commercial, you're putting pressure on your residential property owners. And that's what's happening here. And the reason also that I took from 14 was the start of the new levy, the start of the emergency levy. So I didn't want to go back beyond that because that would put an artificial inflation of the 5.9 mils on there. So I thought that was interesting. Even though that's not on my slide, I should have put that out there. So next slide we have the demographics. We're currently paying $86 per day per pupil. And you can see our residential property owners, that's all that blue is the residential property owners. The orange is our commercial, industrial, our state, and our other expenditures that we have. Next slide, you can see where our expenditures are. And we all know this, our expenditures, because we don't produce anything, we know that our expenditures are in our personnel. So 83% of our costs are in our personnel. We have 11% in purchase services, and all other expenditures include supplies, materials, capital outlay. So we are not a business. We cannot run like a business because businesses produce, and what they produce, they sell, and what they sell, they bring back into their business itself. With school districts, we don't sell anything. So it's hard to it's hard to say, treat us like a business, or you have to work like a business when the business model is not there for a business. The next slide you have is a forecast slide. It shows projected revenues versus expenditures. On the left is if the levy passed. So it's showing our revenues if the levy passed. And you can see that even with our $4 million in reduction, the revenues will only be there exceeding expenditures in 25, 26, 27. In 28, our expenditures are estimated to exceed our revenues once again. And you could see that also on the right-hand side, the projected cash balance if the levy is to pass. And you could see starting in 27, we'll hit our high and we'll start going down. And in 28 is roughly where we started the current fiscal year at. You could look at 23 actual. We started at roughly $40 million. Our projection, if the levy does not pass, is on my last slide here. You will notice the difference between the projection balance and my last slide. This current slide here, we'll go back up once, Craig, thank you, is showing our change in revenue. Again, that's projecting if a levy passes, and our change in expenditures. And you can see our expenditures are dropping, and the reason we're dropping in expenditures is our projected annual is due to reduction of $4 million, both $2 million from our precaution plan and $2 million because we are looking forward to the following year, our precaution with getting out of fiscal precaution. So that's why we dropped $4 million. And now if you look at our final slide here, you can see this is days cash on hand, and this is without the levy itself. And you can see here, we're currently at the 160 mark. We are going to be dropping down in 27. We're estimating to have 25 days of cash on hand. That's less than a month. These are actual days. That's less than a month. So that will pay our people twice, and then we will not have any money left to pay anybody. That does not include paying vendors. This paying our people twice is the 25 days. So, and then going to 2028, we'll be in the negative. And that's why the levy is so important, because you saw between that slide and two slides before where the levy would get us up to where we are currently for this fiscal year starting.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. One thing you mentioned that we did not mention when we talked about the levy, we've been talking about it the last several meetings though, is that we are planning to make $4 million in cuts for this next school year, and I think that's important to continue to remind the community as well, that we're not only just asking for a levy, we are making cuts across the board that will be not only effective this next school year, but going forward as well. Those will accumulate as well.
Thank you. Any questions on the forecast?
Yeah, sorry about that. Your second document there, it's like the report, annual writer. Yeah.
Yes, that's the forecast that will be submitted to the state.
Right. There was a slide on here. I thought it was really good for the public to see, or the page, I think it's page 7, 1.035 is the chunk, or excuse me, the page, and that's the grants, I believe, from the state.
I'm getting there. Craig, you could do this too. You have it right there to show everybody.
Yeah, I was hoping he would.
Did you say 1.045?
Or 1.035, unrestricted grants and aid. That's the state monies, correct?
That is the monies we get for state foundation, yes.
I thought this was a really good slide because it shows that it shows the community how much money we've been receiving from the state and how it's decreased from, in this case, from 2019 through this year by $2 million, and it's projected to stay very, very flat. Sure.
It's page 7.
There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted everyone to see what you were talking about here. But yes, this is our projection from the state. You could see that in 19, actually in 18, we were around closer to $19.5 million from the state. And I believe back in 16, we were around $20 million from the state. So yes, the state's money has been dropping. Our projection is a slight rise here with the state, and that's because of the Fair School Funding Plan.
But that's only if they keep it.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought this was a good slide. It shows that, our funding from the state is very flat, which means as our cost goes up, that means that puts more and more of a burden on our community to make up that difference.
Yes, when the state says they give the district, I believe it's around $7,500 per student. The state's portion is roughly 21%, and the school district's community portion is the remaining 69% per student.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Okay, board comments, Mrs. Smoyer?
Okay, I have quite a few. All right, so the first one I want to put out is I want to send out a big kudos to Mark DeFore, who is the person in charge of the custodians here at the high school. I am the president of the after prom, and we put on a big, huge party 2 weeks ago. It seems like yesterday, where I got 2 hours of sleep, but the kids had a great time. But Mr. DeFore and all of the custodians really kicked it up a notch and helped out a lot. So I just want to send out major kudos to him for that. And all of the custodians, they were right on it. He even gave me a little walkie-talkie. It was great. So they were right on things. Went to the Garfield and Heritage open houses. They were so well attended. It was great seeing the community come out. It was interesting. Garfield had just an older community come out and see everything. And what I loved the most was seeing all of the people going through the yearbooks that they had out and just saying, here I am. And it was just heartwarming. So they know that it's going to be missed as a school, but, and same with Garfield, same with Heritage. It was great to see everybody come out and say, I went here. But they love their schools. You can definitely tell it. I know I personally love my schools where I went, and it was heart-wrenching when I saw my middle school being torn down. At least they are not seeing that. So they've got to be appreciative of that. National Honor Society, I was so happy to attend that and see a lot of the kids that my daughter is a junior in high school. A lot of her friends were there at National Honor Society. It was so great to see them all being inducted. So they represent a lot of hard work and a lot of community spirit. So it's great. went to Canavan's open house. See, I've been doing a lot this time. It helps when you have an arm that works. Canavan's open house and art show. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe the art teacher there really rocks. They definitely put on a great show. It was also awesome in their gym. They had all of their library books that they were giving to the kids, and they were like, go pick them out, and they were taking home bags of books. It was wonderful to see that. Also went and presented to Mike Pafumi at Canavan. So brain fart. Distinguished Service Award. That man really deserves it. All of our teachers really deserve what they do, but it was interesting watching him. And also I went to Heritage and saw Len Huddling just doing what they do best. And it was great for us to be able to see that. So enjoyed that completely. That is one of the great things that I've enjoyed with being on the board, as well as handing out the diplomas this past weekend. That was heartwarming as well. So, and I know when I was graduating, I did not listen to the kids speaking or the main people speaking, but it was so great. These kids really have great speeches, not putting you down. Theirs really did do well. I know you were trying to get them in with the Taylor Swift, but we tried that with the after prom too. It didn't work. So otherwise, policy committee meeting, we had the second reading of policies, and those are going to be presented tonight as well. I had a lot of things out here. So, oh, and I really love this. Yes, I'm saving this sugar for later. But got thank you, Mr. Reader. Thank you cards from Fenn. They invited the community to come or I don't know if they invited the whole community, but they invited board members and others to come and read to the Fenn students. My kids went to Fenn. It was great to go back and see all the teachers and the school, and then just interact with the kids. They had a few books for us to choose to read. I chose the same book a couple of times, and I read 4 different times. And one time they said, well, one of the officers read that to us last time, so I had to run back to the office and grab a different book. I had that one down, but it was a good book. Something about squirrels. Do I remember what the title is? No. I think it was called Those Darn Squirrels, and everybody else liked it too. Otherwise, Finance Committee meeting, we had that and went over the 5-year plan, which I believe you have gone over. And then do want to do a shout out. This is not school related, but we do have a lot of people from the school and kids from the school. They're going to be running in the Medina Half Marathon on Saturday morning. So be careful if you're out and about. I live on the route, so if you are running in that, I will be the one with the hose squirting everybody down because it's going to be kind of warm. And it was fun to hear people, they're testing the route, and I heard them saying as I'm walking my dog, oh, this lady here, she's always got the hose out. I'm like, here I am. So if you are running, I will have that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moyer. Mr. Nichols?
I just want to make a quick note. When we get to where the levy is in the thing, I want to have some more discussion on that too. Aside from that, Craig, beautiful family, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And congratulations to your daughter. There you go. First thing, talk about facilities. We went over kind of a review of some levy stuff that we were bringing there. If I remember right, we had a representative from the boosters and band boosters come and present some of the information that they've been tossing around, but I won't put them on the spot. So that was good information just to hear how the wheels are turning within those 2 organizations within the school district. And then we had a couple conversations about potential upcoming projects. One of the big ones I know was looking at the high school track. It's all the way down to the asphalt in some spots, which, yeah, that's not ideal for the kids to be running on. And then I sat in on the Medina City Schools Foundation. There were some end-of-year stuff that they were kind of wrapping up with the school year, conversations there, and then also some funds that they were talking about reactivating and distributing, depending on what happens with pay to participate. So once again, another just kind of interesting conversations to have in those committees and sit in on. Aaron's actually killing me because I had a whole thing about how graduation and retirements are very similar, and how, retiring is like graduating from your career, and now you can, do more things, and you talk to both groups very similarly, like, we're excited that, you spent time with us, and we've seen you grow from preschool or your first year teaching with us to a senior, which I think sometimes applies to both situations. But it's just a testament. I mean, listening to the people talk today, the retirees, how much they love the school, how much they love the kids, how much they're just in it, right? They're involved. A couple of them didn't even really want to leave, right? They just were like, all right, but it's time, right? I need to go and do other things. Need to have other hobbies, right? Besides teaching. And I just want to say, for both groups, graduation and our retirees, I'm really excited to see where you guys are going in the future, because both groups, I think, have a ton of potential to influence our communities around them, and just to see how that legacy that they created here grows over time.
Mrs. Parkhurst.
Thank you. Mrs. Smoyer and I had attended the policy committee meeting earlier this month, where, as she mentioned, we had the second reading within the committee of the policies, and that's why you will see them on tonight's board agenda, available for a first reading if the board approves. I would like to note that all of these are existing policies that are just updates per legislature that we are required to make. Our curriculum committee did not meet this month, just with the year end of school ending. There was a lot going on, but there are some items on the agenda that the curriculum committee had previously reviewed and discussed. One is the textbook adoption that was put on last month for a 30-day review for the public. So that is up for board adoption this evening, as well as there is a book list for the 2024-2025 school year. And I just want to note that that is a whole class book for an AP class, and the AP curriculum, that comes from the College Board. So that's not something that the district, our teachers select. That's the curriculum from College Board and AP. So it is pretty much what it is. So I just want to make people aware of that. I do want to thank all of our staff. This has been a busy month with staff recognition, as well as staff appreciation days, because bus driver appreciation day, cafeteria worker appreciation day, and we are just so appreciative of our staff here. As Mr. Nichols mentioned, our retirees today had glowing things to say about the district. They really enjoy being part of this community, and we are very fortunate to have such great staff here in our district. That was evident even at commencement. I mean, that was a wonderful ceremony, and it takes so many hands, so many people to put that together, many of whom are behind the scenes, setting up those chairs and getting everything situated and then taking it down. And it is just a well-oiled machine that they've got that down, and we're just so appreciative of everyone, that all of our workers here, custodians, bus drivers, maintenance, teachers, everyone. So I want to thank everyone for all of their service. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was I wanted to thank Mr. Sable for doing a podcast with PBS IdeaStream. That is available on YouTube and on the IdeaStream website. And he discussed school funding, the issues that we are facing here in the district. But they had a panel, and it was very informative and very educational about how the funding of school districts and local municipalities works here in the state of Ohio, and how it is very different than any other state in the country. They discuss in more detail House Bill 920 that Mr. Chambers mentioned earlier this evening, and I encourage everyone to go to that website and take a listen. It's very informative. Thank you.
Mr. West.
I don't have a whole lot. The last time the facility committee met was before the last board meeting, I believe, or shortly thereafter. The big project going on this summer is the Heritage remodel, and that'll be starting, I'm sure, pretty quickly. And hopefully we'll hear some updates over it over the summer. One other project that came to mind was they're adding a sidewalk out inside of Fenn, to get to the parking lot, to make it easier for people to get in that are parents dropping off. I know that, and I'm sure there's other ones. We did talk about the track, and the high school track, and the amount of use that it gets, and it getting pretty close to needing replaced. I had the pleasure of attending the Medina County Career Center graduation as a board member, and getting to sit on stage and seeing all of our students from Medina and all the county schools graduating. There's lots of good things going on out there in their programs. Also, this year was my third year getting to participate in the high school graduation here. I did get to give some diplomas out to some good friends, or young men and ladies that I've known for a lot of years. So that's always a pleasure. You'll see, all the kids that have graduated here are coming home from college. They're all going out and getting jobs, and all the ones that I've talked to are very successful. So I think that goes to say lots of props about our school system here. I would ask the community to be on the lookout for the kids, especially the little kiddos. They're going to be excited to be out of school, and at least in my neighborhood, they tend to like to run in the street and kick the balls, and they go up and down, and they are not watching what they're doing. So please be on the lookout for them, and have your head on a swivel when you're driving around. And finally, it's just nice to see the pickleball courts down at Root. Every night for the last couple weeks, they have been packed, and there's 20 or 30 people waiting to get on the courts because the courts are full. So that's always nice to see. And it's not just adults. There's lots of kids, lots of little kids out there playing pickleball too. So that's always nice to see that our facilities are getting used. And that's about it.
Thank you all. I want to talk about the Dazzle Awards, which was based on the musical prom. Medina was nominated in choreography, scenic design, and best actress, Olivia Douglas. I think they were held last weekend. Unfortunately, Hudson beat us in all those categories, but congratulations to all those people. And the students of the month for May, Lauren Rudd and Zachary Tondra. The boys volleyball team were co-champs of the GCC. Girls lacrosse won their 8th GCC championship. On Bus Driver Appreciation Day, I took bakery out for the bus drivers, just to say thanks for all that they do, and getting up at some ungodly time to do it. Earth Day project for capstone at the high school. These gentlemen cleaned up Roscoe Ewing Park, I guess with Dennis Kucinich, came out. Elliot Avalon, Gage Cole, Aiden Leica, Noah Smith, and Theron Petito. We had 3 students who pledged to serve our country: Blaine Crispin, Zachary Green, and Dominic Matthias. Showtime was great. It does bother me or trouble me that the choir numbers are down compared to past years. I read to the FEN first graders, and they ask you to tell them 3 things that they may not know about you. I made the comment, one of mine was that I have been alive to see every building built in Medina except Garfield, and that got them curious as to how old I was, and I told them, you never ask a woman their age, so Adam was put down in his place by the girls, but it was fun. I got to evaluate the 8th grade capstone projects. They were amazing. Those kids, I just was really impressed with their projects, and they all said they had to learn how to design a website, and I think that was a good experience for them. Canavan Bell Choir, those kids, they come in every morning or a couple days a week before school to practice, and Mr. Bricker does a great job with them. I got to see Mrs. Hoffman's last concert, the Waite 5th grade music extravaganza. A young man by the name of Charles played Mr. Rogers, and I just want you to know he's going to be the head person when it comes to encore and plays. The young man has a lot of charisma and a great voice. FEN 4th graders went to Spring Grove for the Underground Railroad dedication ceremony. They were really a great group of kids, and they were very interested because this was something that they have done. I went to the Medina NHS, and I also went to the MCCC Technical Honors Society, and Lauren Cadlick, Lily Lamarca, Caitlin Malbin, Arrow Maynard, Thomas Prock, whose mom is one of our bus drivers, and Garrett Shook were all inducted. And there were only about 20 kids inducted, and we had probably at least a third of them. Strings in the Park became Strings in the Pack, and we had about 150 people here, and it was very good. They do a great job, and they had former orchestra players come back. I was at the Heritage retirement party. They certainly know how to party at Heritage. That's all I have to say about that. And I want to also thank the staff who helped. There's so many people behind the scenes, people who line them up, people who hand out the diplomas and everything. And then last Friday, Mr. Sable, Mr. Chambers, and I met with our state rep, Sharon Ray. We explained our concerns. She listened. She asked us what she could do for us, and we told her. And I just hope that she does help us, because that would help us with the levy problem. And then tomorrow, as we say a bit adieu to all the 5th graders, I will be at Garfield, and I do have a surprise for all the 5th graders. So anyways, that's all I have. So, Mr. Chambers, your action items?
Actually, Ms. Pritchard, will we be able to take a 5-minute recess, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody could take a seat. Okay, Mr. Chambers, treasurer's action items.
Yes. If it please the board, item number 1, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the April 24 treasurer's financial report. Item number 2, it is recommended that Board of Education approve the following supplementals to the 23-24 permanent appropriations, having supplementals for the 018-9181 school store at Northrop and 018-9184 field trip at Northrop. Item number 3, fund-to-fund transfers. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfers: 018-9181 school store to the principal fund at Northrop, and the 018-9184 field trip to the field trip fund at Northrop. And finally, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the May 2024 5-year forecast and notes to comply with the State of Ohio Department of Education and Workforce requirement.
Can I have a motion to approve the action items 1 through 4?
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer's action items. Number 1, the treasurer's financial report. Number 2, the supplemental to permanent appropriations. Number 3, the fund-to-fund transfers. And number 4, the 5-year forecast.
Thank you, Mr. West. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Moyer. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, I hate to get too close. Action items for the superintendent.
First action item is donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations. Thank you to Board Member West for his donation of a Dell Precision Tower 3620. Also would like to note the donation to Helping Hands Preschool Speech and Language Department from Amanda Betker for the Nova Chat 8 with Case. I know this is going to be a piece of technology to really help out our students. Number 2 on the list is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Medina City Schools 24-25 book list for a 30-day review. The book list will be presented to the board for final approval and potential adoption at the June regular Board of Education meeting. I think Board Member Parkhurst did an outstanding job explaining that. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt the attached list of textbooks for the 24-25 school year. And again, these were books that were presented for first reading and open for public review at the last meeting. Field trips, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340. Power of the Pen, just this last weekend went to Ashland. And then we have a recommendation for a historical and cultural learning trip to Belgium, England, France, and Germany. This is sponsored by our high school social studies department. This is dependent upon student enrollment, engagement, interest, and is paid for in full by the families participating. Number 5, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following revised policies for first reading. The policies will not be presented to the board for final approval and potential adoption until the regular June Board of Education meeting. And again, I would like to point out here that there are no new policies here. All of these policies are regular, I'm going to use the word mundane, updates, and then they would be recommended to the board at the next meeting for adoption. Number 6 is service agreements. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreements. We do have quite a few service agreements on the agenda tonight, which is typical for this time of year. If you look at the dates on these agreements, they're for the 24-25 school year. So we are already in the process of preparing for the upcoming school year. A couple of these I do want to point out. AGM Energy Services, we are in need to replace the electronic system for the lights over at the high school parking lot, as well as over at the rec center. And I'm looking up at Ryan, but the rec center portion of that will be a split cost with the whole cost on that is split with the city. In addition, we also have our Project Lead the Way contract with the Career Center, and this is pass-through funds, but this pays for the college and career readiness coursework, as well as a lot of the STEM coursework that we've implemented in collaboration with the Career Center at both the middle schools as well as at the high school. In addition, under Pupil Services, aside from the special education contracts, which were mandated to have in place per students' IEPs, we also have the contract with the Educational Service Center of Medina County for the upcoming school year. There's been no significant changes to this contract. Most of the services within this contract are related to special education as well as technology in our technology department. Number 7 is stipend payments. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following stipend payments to the district teachers who have served as cooperating teachers for students attending Ashland University during the spring 2024 semester. I am happy to see that we have so many cooperating teachers on this list, and we've seen teachers throughout the school year listed on this list. We are at a time in our profession where there is an educator shortage, both for teachers in the classroom as well as administrators. That is something that we are very aware of, and I want to thank Tina Cassidy as well as Jim Shields for being proactive and working with our local universities in order to get student teachers into our facilities. And if we can get more access to not only helping to train young educators and get them excited about the field, but also get them to want to be here and work in Medina City schools, it's more important than ever. And number 8, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all required paperwork per the Office of Human Resources. There are a couple resolutions on here that unfortunately I need to present this evening. The first is a reduction in force for administrators. Be it resolved that the administrative contract of the following individuals are suspended as part of a reduction in staff effective with the beginning of the 24-25 school year. Second resolution is for certificated staff, which is teaching staff. Be it resolved under Article 8 of the board's collective bargaining agreement with the Medina City Teachers Association that the teaching contracts of the following individuals are suspended as part of a reduction in staff effective with the beginning of the 24-25 school year. It is important to point out that we have made quite a large amount of reductions. We've got somewhere around 25 to 30 reductions that we've made in the district. These are the amount of those that have turned into an actual reduction in force. That's because of the efforts that we've been making to make reductions through attrition, and as I had mentioned, individuals that were willing to retire maybe a year earlier than they were planning on in order to make positions available for younger individuals in the district, and I do thank them for that. We also have contract recommendations on the agenda for both administrators and our teaching staff. In terms of our administrators, the contract recommendations do follow a cycle for eligibility of a 3-year contract. You need to have been with the district for 5 years and have had adequate evaluations. Our teaching staff, which is attached to the agenda, is per the negotiated agreement. Also, it's important to point out that we do have individuals that are on the RIF list but are still being recommended a contract. That is because these individuals are still employees of the district. Their contracts are just suspended while they're RIFed. So if a position were to become available, they have eligibility to return to their position, and they are eligible to stay on that RIF list for a period of 2 years. We also have multiple supplemental contracts on the agenda for non-renewal, which happens throughout the course of the calendar year when we transition in and out of the athletic season. And these contracts will be reposted as appropriate in the coming weeks, or as we approach the appropriate season.
And anyone would like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's action items G 1 through 8?
I'll make a motion to approve action items G1 through 8.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Parkhurst. Any questions? Discussion?
I have 2 items. First, I did want to point out that regarding the policies up for consideration, if the board does approve these policies for first reading, that is when a draft of those policies will be made available in public content for the public to review those. Then secondly, I had a question for Mr. Sable. I do appreciate the collaboration partnership we have with the Career Center for the PLTW classes. I was just curious if these are the same offerings that we've had for next year that we've had in prior years.
They are.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. Chambers, roll call.
Yes, Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Must be. Ms. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Oh.
Ms. Pritchard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Action item for the board, resolution necessity to levy an additional tax.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion for action item H1.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Second.
I will second, but don't we have to complete the information that's in it as part of the motion?
All right, for action item H1 for 10 years.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I second.
All right, Mrs. Parkhurst. Sorry, discussion.
Yeah, first off, sorry for that confusion. Had no clue what I was doing on that one. That's my first one. So we had there was talk about possibly doing a special meeting to have further conversation about this. And this is this is kind of disappointing that we're at this point, right? And it doesn't matter. I was in favor of the 10. We have 3 people with 10. We have 2 people with 8. But just looking at it from us having already 2 special meetings and 2 regular meetings to have a discussion to get to a point where we can agree on something, and we got almost there. And now we're having an issue on 2 years, right? I understand that we want the board to be unified in the idea, and that, we're all in agreement that this is the best path forward for the district as far as a levy. But I think that does injustice to our representation that we were elected for, right? The community itself is split. Not even just yes, no, but what should we do, right? When we went up last November, it was, you got to take the bond off. Well, I'll vote for it if the bond's gone. Cool. We got rid of the bond, and, yes, we did up it $13 from what that price was. Well, then all of a sudden it was a control thing, right? How do we hold you guys accountable? Well, as board members, you hold us accountable by not voting for us when we're up for re-election. It's not holding a grasp on the district from the levy standpoint. So we catered to that, and now we're here with the emergency levy and saying, all right, you have 8 or 10 years that we would like this levy for, we would like to collect money on, and you can hold us accountable. If in that period of time we don't do what you deem to be right and necessary, shut it down, right? Don't approve a renewal. And let us know. And as we've talked, in 5 years, there's going potentially 5 years. I don't want anything set in stone, but potentially in 5 years, we're going to have to come out just due to the nature of how things are and probably ask for a little bit more, right? There's a situation where you can hold us accountable and tell us, hey, all right, that's too much money. Can't ask for more. But I mentioned in the last meeting, like the May meeting is when we have to make a decision. And I think we need to. Talking with like the levy committee and stuff, we're going to take another, 1, 2 weeks, maybe a month away from them to have the opportunity to get more of the information out there. And I understand they did run a great campaign, and we're still in this spot, but every time is different, and we keep moving forward, learning and creating an environment where we're trying to listen, but we also need to be listened to about, hey, we need this. This is what we need to keep up that type of education that many of the people in the room went through, or a variation of it. And I guess the question is really if you even want to try to go for a unanimous decision. I ask Ms. Pritchard and Ms. Moyer, what does it take to get you to a 10? What does it take to get you to 10 years? And then I ask, myself, Mr. West, and Mrs. Parkhurst, what does it take to get you to an 8? And I think, I don't know, they can answer for themselves, but I feel like, at least in my position, I'm pretty strong on it's got to be a 10. We need a 10. We need to create some sort of space and some sort of chance to get out of the cycle that we're slowly falling into more and more, and create an actual account so we don't have to be at the point where we need to cut programming all the time. That's just where my head was at, and I just felt like I need to put that out there, and we need to have a conversation or an understanding. If we go to a special meeting, what does that change? What is the thing that is going to make us up here as board members change our opinion from an 8 to a 10 or a 10 to an 8?
Well, Mr. Nichols, I would just like to say that at all the multiple meetings in April, we talked about many different things, but at no point did we ever talk about the duration of an emergency levy. And I just don't feel that, I just felt it was assumed everyone would go for a 10. Well, I mean, that's not a good thing. And I really don't think if we wait 2 weeks and have a special meeting, it's going to make any difference to the levy committee. You know, they're going to use the same signs. They're not necessarily going to get very much printed beforehand. And also the administration has not come up with a list of cuts that would be made if the levy didn't pass. So we can go ahead and we can vote. I'm still voting. I'm going to vote no. I'll be very honest. I'm not going to ever go to 10. So I just think we're not, I think this is it does reflect the community, and they don't want a 10.
Yeah, I completely agree with Mrs. Pritchard. A couple weeks is not going to change anything. I know just from doing my own campaign that you're going to be doing more stuff closer to that time period of November, truly starting in August, so it's really not going to make that much of a difference. Yes, you're trying to get people on board to help with this, but either way, we're going to go for a levy, so that's neither here nor there. With the amount of time, again, you know, if Mr. Sable would like to put it out there and say, you know, on your page, whether 8 or 10, as I was told by a community member, those people who are going to vote no are not going to be coming to this meeting. And even if they do, they will not say something. And it kind of rings true. So, you know, you've got to go out in the community, you've got to talk to the people, and for me, it was answering my phone on, you know, some numbers that I did not recognize, and, you know, talking to the community members who are willing to call and have that conversation. And I'm sticking with the 8 too.
So I have a couple questions for Mrs. Moyer and Ms. Pritchard. If you're sticking to your 8s and you're saying a couple weeks aren't going to matter, you're clearly not going to change your mind. You're hoping that 3 of us will, right?
That could be true, and what I'm kind of putting out there is hopefully you are speaking to the community members as well, and I'm sure you are, you know, to see what they're going to say after today's meeting. Perhaps they may change Ms. Pritchard's and my opinion of it within the next 2 weeks, and I really do want to speak to those people and tell me what you think, you know, we should do. You guys, we are the community, we are the hands to you, to the community, because it takes the whole community to make that vote, not just us.
Except that we are representative of the community because they elected us. We're not a direct. They vote on the levy ballot, but they have elected us to make these decisions. Yes, it is important to listen to them. It's also important to communicate the necessity of the needs of the district to the community. It's a back and forth. It's a conduit. So I have listened to the community. Honestly, no one has reached out to me and told me they favor an 8 over a 10. They'd say to me, we elected the board and we trust the board to make the right decision.
Well, they haven't trusted the board in 2 elections, so I guess I would say I would like to see, again, I agree with Mrs. Smoyer, put something out on Mr. Sable's page and see. I think part of it is until just recently, we just found out that the recommendation, well, I don't know what it was going to be, that you wanted 10. And I had told Mr. Sable earlier I would not go along with 10, but if I see enough support in the community to go with 10, yeah, I might change. I would probably change my mind, but I just don't think you're going to see it. And I, because I've answered a lot of phone calls, I've gone out and talked to people, and they're not there, not yet. So we can vote on it, and I guess it'll be 3-2, or we can wait a couple weeks, and it could be 5-0, I don't know.
We currently have a motion and a second for a 10-year emergency levy, correct? Okay. So, I think we've all spoken to community members. I know I have. I know Becky has. I know you have. I know Joe and Amy all have. We've all spoken to them. We have a motion out there for a 10-year emergency operating levy, and I've already spoken my piece as what I think. And so if we have a motion, then we should vote on it. That's just, it's out there.
Or Mr. Nichols can withdraw.
Or Mr. Nichols can withdraw it.
Mr. Chambers, can't anyone withdraw the motion? Or does it have to be the person who made the motion?
So I take it, Ms. Pritchard, Ms. Smoyer would want to wait, yeah? Mr. West and Ms. Parkhurst, continue.
We have a motion out there. You have a motion for a 10-year emergency operating levy.
Oh, yes, but I'm gauging the opinion of the board.
Well, I've given my opinion this evening, and if we vote on it this evening, I've given you my feelings of where I'm at. If you wish to withdraw it and wait and get some more feedback or whatnot, then I'm okay with that as well.
Okay, all right.
So I'm prepared, if we move forward with the motion, I'm prepared to vote on it tonight.
Okay.
I will add, it is okay. All the training I've been through on school boards, everybody always said, yeah, it's nice to have a unanimous vote. But it is okay if we don't have unanimous votes, and we have had votes where we are not unanimous in the past. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I mean, it was me that was extremely adamant that we get a vote across in this meeting, and I think we should go ahead and vote on it.
Before we vote, before we vote, you've written in on the piece of paper. Okay, sorry.
I would just, before we vote, I think one of the things that they do tell you at OSBA school is that when it comes to levies, it's nice to have the entire board on the same page. So, you know, I would, if we want to vote on it, fine, but I think you are going to see then that that does send a message to the community that the board is split on this at this point. And I don't know whether that helps our chances or not.
Yeah, what Mr. Chambers said is the board is split on the number of years, an 8-year emergency versus a 10-year emergency, not the 7.5 mils on the ballot in November.
Not to be picky, but we are voting on the entire resolution. I mean, and I agree, I believe Mrs. Smoyer, I don't want to speak for her, but we both agree that there is a need for the levy at 7.5. But just so everyone understands, I think our objection is to the length of this emergency levy.
Yeah, I'm still fine with going forward with the vote. I will, if this backfires, this is, I'll be the first person to say that we made possibly a wrong decision, but I feel like this is the right decision. I feel like with the 2 years, the community should be able to get behind us. I think what they're asking, from what I heard, the 5 years instead of 8 or 10, I think that's a little too big of an ask. And yeah, I think the 10 years is where we need to go. And I'm backing up my words that I've said the last couple board meetings. So yeah, I'm okay with a vote.
I think this conversation just proves to the public that we do all care about this and that we don't take this lightly.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Parkers?
Aye.
Ms. Smoyer?
Nay.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Pershing?
Nay. Next up is public comment, and we do have a list. And so I'm going to call the first person's name, and they can come up. And as I read this, so Ann Bruno is first up. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to comment in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public comment from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ann Bruno. My address is 922 Andrews Road. My husband and I have lived in Medina for 35 years. All 3 of our now adult children attended Medina City schools. I believe they all received an excellent, well-rounded education. They have maintained many close friendships with Medina students, many from diverse backgrounds and religions. Medina schools have always been open and inclusive, and it's the reason we chose to send our children to public school. We like the fact that our kids were being exposed to and learning about others from a variety of backgrounds. I believe that LifeWise Academy would challenge this philosophy and create divisiveness within the elementary schools and beyond. My grandchild currently attends a school in a different city that has already been infiltrated by LifeWise. For many reasons, his parents are choosing not to participate. A major reason is that LifeWise teaches that being gay or queer is sinning and is a path to hell. We have several friends and family members whom we love who are part of the LGBTQ community. Several of my grandson's friends are participating in the program. He is frustrated and feeling left out. He doesn't understand why he can't get out of school and get treats. The parents are then left trying to explain why he can't participate without alienating his friends or their parents. The founding fathers of our country included separation of church and state for several important reasons. Public schools are a part of the bedrock of our democracy, where the importance of honoring diversity, compassion, and kindness should be taught and celebrated. This is not the philosophy of LifeWise. Taking impressionable young children out of the classroom during school hours is disruptive to other students and to faculty and is unnecessary. My children attended PSR for their religious education during their elementary school years. The curriculum was shared with the parents. LifeWise has stated that their curriculum is not and will not be shared with parents. What are they hiding? PSR was held in the evenings and didn't interfere with the school day or disrupt any other students. If LifeWise wants to spread their interpretation of the Bible, they should do so before or after school or on weekends. No one person and no one group should be pressuring others to follow what they believe. Please do not allow this extreme Christian group to infiltrate our schools. Let's fight to keep our nation a democracy and not allow it to become a theocracy by influencing our vulnerable children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madison Collins.
Hi, Madison Collins, 1018 Smoke Rise Drive, here for myself about the RTRI. Sorry, my throat is sore after teaching all day. So I'm here obviously about RTRI instruction, and I have proposed proposals here that are possible policies the board can enact that not only do not target any individual organization, but actively take steps to protect our students from any organization that would take measures that would cover up any sort of abuse, neglect, or harm to children. These measures would also ensure that that any organization removing students are fully liable for students during said time. Any organization removing students from schools during school hours must either meet ODE or ODJFS guidelines for child care providers or education institutions. These guidelines also would ensure that parents have access to any and all curricular instruction materials by any organization providing instruction or care or supervision during school hours. They also would reinforce our current policies requiring background checks for any visitors or anyone engaging with students, as we do want to make sure that our students during school hours are cared for and protected and are not around individuals who may harm them. These policies also continue on to ensure that there is no incentivization, bullying, harassment, or any measure taken that would make any student feel less for not partaking. It also ensures that students are not missing any instructional time. I can guarantee you these proposed guidelines here do meet ODE requirements here and do not go against any of the ORC. These are things that the board, while they may need to be reworded per your legal team, they are pretty simple and easy guidelines that could protect our students on a general basis that I think make a lot of sense. And I know I actually will be presenting them to my own district very soon. I think these are things that We'll ensure our children are safe. We know who they are being transported with. We know who they are with. And that way we can make sure that all of our students are safe, protected, and not being groomed or manipulated in any way. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry Stanson.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you all today. My name is Terry Stanson, and I am joining the voices here expressing opposition to the school establishing policies that support release time for religious instruction. I'm well aware that there is no policy currently under consideration, but we're also aware that there are other districts that are considering such policies, and I'm just talking to you ahead of time so that we can get in front of it. For my time today, I would like to read from a letter written by a retired K-3 teacher at the Medina City School District. She writes, "My primary concern is the disruption to the students' school day. I know how precious every moment is in the classroom. I also know how disruptive it is to the entire classroom when students depart and return to the room. While curiosity serves children well when learning, it does not serve them well when class is interrupted with their natural curiosity of where the other students have been and what they were doing and where they were and when they were gone. In addition, a further burden will be placed on the school staff and classroom teachers. Classroom teachers will need to be sure that all children are returned to their classroom. If the students missed any pertinent classroom information, the teacher will need to take time away from teaching to tell the students what they missed or to give returning students directions as to what they should be doing. What if a student returns to the classroom and hasn't eaten their lunch? What if the students return later than they should? Should we hold instruction until they return? What if students haven't used the restroom and teaching time needs to be taken for the students to use the restroom? This is obviously a teacher with a lot of experience with kids. What if a student has asthma and has an inhaler or an allergy that requires an EpiPen? What if a student doesn't want to go but is signed up to go? What if a student becomes ill during release time? I'm also concerned that LifeWise instructors are not required to have DCI or FBI background checks, as is required of all volunteers in the district. As a former teacher, I know how overworked teachers are and the amount of time that is needed to educate students. I also know how hard it is to keep students focused on lessons in the classroom. The fewer disruptions in the classroom, the better for students to learn. I ask that you decline to create a policy that would grant access to outside organizations to provide RTRI, as the policy would create extra work for school staff and provide disruptions to the student day that are not needed, as religious instructions can easily take place before or after school or with the student's own parents. So I thank you very much for this time.
Thank you. Karen Thorne.
Good evening. My name is Karen Thorne. I live at 3677 Falcon Ridge Drive. My husband and I are long-term residents of the Medina City School District. I graduated from the Medina City Schools, as did both of our adult children. I also served on the Medina City Schools Foundation for many years, including one term as president. Today, I come before you to ask that you do not change policy to allow released time religious instruction in the Medina City Schools. Even though I no longer have students in the system, I believe I do have a vested interest in the Medina City Schools. You see, our schools are the foundation upon which our community is built, and Medina is a great community that celebrates diversity and inclusion. The Medina City Schools Elementary Handbook for the current school year states, and I quote, "The Board of Education declares it to be the policy of this district to provide an equal opportunity for all students, regardless of race, color, creed, disability, age, religion, gender, ancestry, national origin, place of residence within the boundaries of the district, or social or economic background to learn through the curriculum offered by the district, offered in this district. This seems at odds with the messaging created by LifeWise, the organization that is currently targeting the Medina City Schools District and other schools throughout our county, state, and nation. Their agenda or doctrine vilifies unmarried people living together, same-sex marriages, and says non-Christians are going to hell. In addition, they advocate obeying God over parents. Where would teachers and administrators fall in their hierarchy? And they want to disrupt the school day to teach these lessons by taking students off of school premises. In the course of a year, students in Ohio spend only 10% of their time in scholastic instruction. That leaves 90% for other pursuits. I question why a religious organization would target that 10% time slot. Are they merely taking advantage of a legal loophole to expand the following of their doctrine? Finally, allowing this organization into our schools sets a precedent for other religious organizations to gain access to the school day, creating a truly chaotic learning environment. The most reasonable solution is to do not allow release time religious instruction in the Medina City School District. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Shelley Ray.
I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. I'm Shelley Ray. I'm a resident of Medina, and as a former language arts teacher in the Medina City School District in this building, and as a mother of 2 Medina High School graduates, and as a member of the community who's paying attention, I implore the board to establish firm guardrails against marketing of religion during our local public school day. When we make the choice to enroll our children in public school, we must be confident that our public school setting is maintaining the true mission of public education, and that is, and I quote, "School maintained at public expense for the education of our community's children," end quote. I was raised by 2 public school educators, and I'm a product of public school myself. And since my dad was a math teacher, I can do math. Here are some numbers I'd love for you to consider as this issue is before all of us. A 50-minute class costs Ohio taxpayers approximately $13 per student. The LifeWise classes average 45 to 60 minutes over approximately 31 weeks away from the child's school building. 13 multiplied by 31 equals $403 per student in the program. To give you an example of a school that currently has this in place, Defiant City Schools, 841 students left school for the LifeWise program. $403 multiplied by 841 equals $338,923 spent but not utilized by the school district as budgeted. Let those numbers sink in, but please note that the dollars and cents should not be at the true heart of this. As an educator, a faithful person, and a proud parent of 2 successful adult children, I can tell you that while the core academics mattered, and I was an English teacher, the electives and the enrichment of the specials, i.e. art, music, and physical education, all form that whole student we can be proud of in public education. These essential minutes fulfill important elements of a curriculum and the healthy overall development of a member of society. These dots connecting music and art to literature and history, and even science and math, matter. Adopting anything else other than that in our public schools is a costly mistake. So what I ask of you is to keep public education public in Medina City Schools and insist that policy you adopt and maintain protects this standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Collins.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Christina Collins, and I live at 1078 Sugar House Lane. I am a parent of several Medina Bees. Much of what I wanted to say about religious release time has already been said, and I agree with the concerns of those who have already expressed their opinions. The value of public education lies in its ability to emphasize what we have in common through diverse, inclusive, secular instruction that holds space for all or no religious beliefs. All students, including my children, have the right to freedom from religion in their public schools. As has been stated, Medina does not currently have a policy that would allow this to happen, allow the religious release time to happen. And I encourage the board to continue not to adopt a local religious release time policy. But it's important to note that a state bill, House Bill 445, would take away the right of this board to make that decision. It would take away local control and force all districts in Ohio to adopt such a policy. It changes a single word in the Ohio Revised Code from districts may adopt a policy to districts shall adopt a policy. I ask that this board continue to oppose the policy both at the local level, but also speak out to oppose that bill, House Bill 445. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Luke Linden.
Hello, good evening. I'm the Reverend Dr. Luke Linden from Larkins Way, and I'm here with the Reverend Steve Mahaffey of St. Matthew's Lutheran. I'm the senior pastor of Medina United Church of Christ Congregational. It's been in the city for 205 years, and I'm here as well to speak against LifeWise. The belief of LifeWise are not my beliefs. I believe that they are nationalist, anti-science, and anti-LGBTQ+, where we are not. Many people think that all Christians think the same, but there is a wide diversity in denominations and their various points of doctrine. LifeWise is seeking, what they are seeking to do is to erode the division of church and state, which has long been and historically been a no-go for religious denominations. In fact, the Congregationalists that I am of the tradition thought that this would be good civics, that there would be freedom from religion, and that ideas, the best ideas, would win the day. It's good civics, it's good for a strong social fabric, it helps us live together civilly while we maintain our separate points of doctrine and religious identity. Religious instruction is the right of the individual and their conscience, and that has been and shall ever be a private choice. There are a host of religious instructions already taking place in this city. If it was about religious instruction, LifeWise would have hours outside of the school. They seek to instruct during school hours to disrupt and erode public school education. If one wants to have religious instruction during school hours, there are private Christian schools, Catholic or Protestant, take your pick, that align with individual choice and the moral outlook of the family. There are also Sunday schools and various church activity events throughout the week. We can give you a schedule if you'd like ours. I firmly believe that religion should stay in the church or within private settings where individuals choose to practice their faith. Our children deserve unbiased education, free from any form of indoctrination, which LifeWise is seeking to do by incentivizing kids to invite others to the program. My final point is that public school is not Sunday school. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Demlow.
Good evening. My name is Amy Demlow, and I have lived in the district for 24 years at 763 Victoria Circle. I am an attorney in Medina and the parent of 2 Medina City graduates. Echoing others, I strongly oppose any school policies that would allow release time for religious instruction for students as requested by organizations like LifeWise Academy. As an attorney, I have concerns about the safety of children leaving school grounds to attend any program that is not supervised by vetted school staff, which may lead to increased liability risks for the school district. Moreover, despite guarantees that the programs do not recruit participants during the school day, we know this is not true. Students are incentivized to recruit their friends to participate with promises of parties, prizes and swag that is aimed at proselytizing beliefs that may be inconsistent with the beliefs of the students' parents. As a parent, I have great concerns of how such a program will impact students. There will be major disruptions to education in too many ways to list. The curriculum of LifeWise Academy is confidential and proprietary, which means that we cannot know all the ways in which messages are shared with students. But we do know that LifeWise espouses themes of Christian nationalism, and we know that those teachings are inherently discriminatory against non-Christians and adhere to anti-science and anti-LGBTQ+ doctrines. This is of particular concern to families like mine, as one of my children is a proud member of the LGBTQ community. Had this existed during his days in school, you can imagine the feeling of being othered or told by peers that he was a sinner when they returned to school based on taught ideology. Current Ohio law does not require allowing release time for religious instruction. I urge you to refrain from implementing a release time policy that would cause unnecessary disruption, place the school district at risk, and cause potential harm to many students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Doug Eastwood.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us to all talk on this subject. Doug Eastwood, 3377 Foskett Road, Medina, Ohio. I have been born and raised in this town. I've had the opportunity to graduate from this high school, and I had an opportunity to serve on the board you're sitting on today. Appreciate the efforts and obviously the stress that goes along with those efforts. It's not an easy job. I'm of the opinion that I would like to encourage you to consider allowing or proposing a policy to allow this action from LifeWise, or some form of opportunity where parents, my understanding, parents have to agree. It doesn't cost the school money. And I've been involved with student improvements when I was on the board, where I literally took kids out of the class. We went down into another classroom where one of your teachers had a grant for teaching reading. You know, we took people out of the classroom where they were at. We brought them back. I don't remember people feeling left out that the others couldn't go, and I had 2 students that I got to work with. So I don't believe that this has a negative impact that you have been feeling, and I don't want to disrespect anybody that spoke. I think everybody has a right to their opinion. But I would ask you to consider adopting a policy to allow this release program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm guessing we're close to our 30-minute time period, so we'll move, need a motion to go into executive session to consider appointment, employment, or compensation of public employee or official, discussion with the board's legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are subject of pending or imminent court action, preparation for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. West. Thank you. Roll call?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. There will be no action taken. I would appreciate all of you coming and speaking, and we appreciate your input. So thank you, and our next meeting is in June. Thank you.